Getting to know a sutra is like getting to know a person. First, you learn his name. This corresponds to the explanation of the title. Then you learn to recognize him on sight. Is he tall or short? What does he look like? Is he healthy? This corresponds to the discrimination of the substance. Then you discover his basic principles. Is he a businessman? Is he a student? In general, what are his interests? This is the clarification of the doctrine. Suppose he is a student, what function does he serve? Does he simply study and then go to sleep? No doubt he will develop his talents and become a useful member of society as a scientist or perhaps a philosopher. This is the discussion of the function. Finally, knowing the above, you will be able to identify him as a professor, an engineer, or an educator, and you will be able to determine just what his accomplishments in life will be. This corresponds to the determination of the teaching mark. According to the 7 title classifications explained above, this sutra is established by reference to a dharma and an analogy. The wonderful dharma is a dharma and the lotus flower is an analogy. Because the wonderful dharma is difficult to understand, the lotus is used as an analogy. The wonderful dharma. Ultimately, how wonderful is the wonderful dharma? It cannot be thought of and it cannot be expressed in words. You may try to comprehend it, but no matter how much you think, you won't understand it. For once you understand it, it's no longer wonderful. It is inconceivable and unthinkable. How much the less can it be spoken of? But you can't just say it's ineffable and leave it at that. You still must speak of it. The speaking itself is not wonderful, but merely describes the wonderful. Ultimately, the genuine wonder is something known only to the Buddhas. Only the Buddhas can clearly understand this state. Common people may claim, I understand the wonderful Dharma Lotus Flower Sutra, but what do they mean by that? The wonderful Dharma is just that which cannot be understood. If it cannot be understood, you may ask, then what's the use of lecturing on it? We will explain a small part of its meaning, not its entire meaning. It would simply be impossible to explain the entire scope of the meaning of the word wonderful. I couldn't do it. I'm being quite frank and open on this point. I don't go around saying I understand and explaining things I know nothing about. Such behavior is just cheating others and cheating oneself as well. So now I will explain only a little bit of the wonderful Dharma Lotus Flower Sutra. However, I don't know how long it will take me to explain even this little bit. It took the great master teacher of the Tiantai school 90 days to lecture on the one word wonderful. During the past summer 1968, I took 96 days to explain the Suragama Sutra, and that is really rocket speed. In Hong Kong, it took me 14 months to explain the Suragama Sutra. In 90 days, Great Master Teacher did not finish explaining the word wonderful. He only explained the small part of it. Now, let's talk about the word wonderful. How many days will it take to explain it? I haven't figured it out in advance. It will take however long it takes. What is wonderful? The wonderful Dharma is wonderful. Living beings are wonderful. What is wonderful? The Buddha is wonderful. There is nothing within heaven and earth that is not wonderful. Tell me what is not wonderful. Everything is the wonderful Dharma, and the possibilities for explaining the word wonderful are unlimited. You may say, This is wonderful and that is wonderful, but where does the wonderful come from? I will tell you. The wonderful comes from the heart. How is it that you notice a wonderful drama? It is because you have a heart. Because the drama of the heart is wonderful, the drama of living beings is also wonderful. The Buddha drama is wonderful too. How is the drama of the heart wonderful? All of the mountains and rivers and the earth with its vegetation and dwellings, where does it come from? It all comes from the present thought manifested in the hearts of every one of us. How do the thoughts arise from the heart? I don't know, you say. Your not knowing is wonderful. I do know, you say. Then your knowing is also wonderful. Both knowing and not knowing are wonderful. Why? Could your not knowing be anything but wonderful? Could your knowing be anything but wonderful? You ask, how can the heart be wonderful? Most people think of their heart as being a lump of flesh inside their chest, but that is to mistake a thief for your son. Like Ananda, who in the Suragama Sutra held that his mind was inside his body. That heart is nothing but a lump of flesh and it is useless. It is called the heart which arises because of accumulation, for it comes into being from the massing of afflictions. It is also called the conditioned and considering heart, because it is able to work conditions to its own advantage and to consider matters. This heart is the sixth mind consciousness. It is responsible for our false thinking and scattered thoughts, such as the fleshy heart. It goes by many names. Do not think that the heart Dharma which I am explaining refers to this false thinking heart. Do you mean to say that I have another heart? You ask. You mean you didn't know? Isn't that wonderful? You don't even know about your own heart. That really is wonderful. If you don't even know about your heart, how could you understand your own life? You come into the world in a confused daze. That confused daze is also wonderful. You leave the world in a stupor and understand nothing. You don't understand how you got here, and when it comes time to die, you leave all muddled with no idea of where you're going. This too is wonderful, but coming and going, you don't understand. You reply, Dharma Master, you have said that birth and death are wonderful, and I grant that they are. However, the duration of my life itself is not very wonderful. Your life is even more wonderful. Why? Without being aware of it, a child grows into young adulthood. The young adult then becomes a grown up. Without being aware of what is happening, the grown up grows into an old man. Is this not wonderful? Not only does he become an adult, but he gives birth to many sons and daughters. If it is not wonderful, how, without once even being aware of them, could so many changes take place? Perhaps you find my explanation of the wonderful drama to be meaningful and admit the Dharma Master says this is a wonderful drama and it certainly must be so. But before I explained the wonderful drama, you didn't know it was wonderful. The wonderful drama refers to right within one's not knowing, within that unawareness, nonetheless acting according to the wonderful drama. That's wonderful. There's no end to speaking about the wonderful drama. What is right in front of you is wonderful. Your ability to see it is also wonderful. If it were not wonderful, you couldn't see. Then you ask, is that which I cannot see not wonderful? What you cannot see is even more wonderful. Both that you see and do not see, hear and do not hear is wonderful. Not just the seeing itself, but the ability to see is also wonderful. The question of seeing is discussed at length in the Suragama Sutra. There it is asked, who is it who is able to see? who does the seeing. Why is it that you are able to see things nearby? Well, because they are nearby. But isn't that wonderful? Why can't you see things that are far away, but only things that are nearby? Isn't that wonderful? When you see the color yellow, an impression of the color yellow is created in the field of your eighth consciousness. The same applies to seeing other colors: green, red, white, or black. How is the impression created? On whose instructions is the impression created? No one's, and that is wonderful. There's no one standing next to you saying, now you are seeing yellow. The yellow impression should arise within your mind. You do it yourself. Isn't this wonderful? Your ability to create these impressions is wonderful, isn't it? Hearing works in the same way. Why do some sounds please us and others annoy us? Who instructs you to like or dislike them? No one. Then why do some sounds delight you and others repulse you? Why do you give rise to liking and disliking? Some forms we find beautiful and give rise to craving for. Others we find ugly and are repulsed by. Who instructs us to do this? I don't know who tells me to do it. I just think that way, you say. You just think that way, and that is wonderful. So everything is wonderful Dharma. The heart Dharma is wonderful, and from within the heart, 1,000 changes and myriad transformations arise. Could this happen if it were not wonderful? Actually, I could talk about the wonderful for several hundred years and never finish. If I finished, it would not be wonderful. It's just because there's no end to speaking of it that it is wonderful. Shakyamuni Buddha taught the Dharma for 49 years in over 300 Dharma assemblies and never went beyond the wonderful. The word wonderful then includes the entire Tripitaka with its 12 types of sutra text. The word wonderful includes all of the Buddha Dharmas. Not one of them goes beyond it. Isn't this wonderful? Great Master Chu took 90 days to speak about the word wonderful, but really one couldn't finish in 90 years. Wow, you say, in that case, there's certainly not enough time in one life to hear the entire sutra explained. Better not listen.